Good evening and welcome to the school committee meeting of August 9th, 2016. I want to call this meeting to order and read the mission statement. The mission of the Wakefield Public Schools is to educate and inspire all students to be lifelong learners who are meaningful contributors to society and meet their academic, social, civic, and physical potential. We'll now go to the public comment section of our agenda. Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to comment on either items on the agenda or others of their concern? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Move that the school committee approve the minutes of the July 26, 2016 meeting as presented.
Is there a second? The motion's been made and seconded. Are there any questions or comments, thoughts about the minutes? No, seeing none. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, now we're on to my comments. So I think I hope everyone got a chance to see the story in tonight's paper about the town's decision and the selectmen's approval last night of a proposal to study the feasibility of a ice skating rink. And Dr. Smith had brought this to my attention last week, and this is, obviously something very exciting and potentially of great benefit to the students of the Wakefield Public Schools. So I thought that I'd give Dr. Smith a chance to just say a couple of words about it and give the committee a chance to give some thought about what role the school committee can play in this process. So
I'm very much in support and favor of the idea of having a hockey rink or a skating rink right here in Wakefield. I think it's long overdue. I think Brennan Kent will probably agree with me. He's in the audience, that it would be wonderful to have the opportunity for students to learn how to skate at a young age and really support our athletic teams and our hockey teams and programs, and it would be a real centerpiece in the community as well. So they're looking at the area past up the hill, Hemlock Road, past Landrigan Field.
Right.
On the right-hand side, yeah.
Right. And of course, with our long-term redevelopment of the Wakefield High School and the vocational school's own long-term building plan, it may be an opportunity to take advantage of all of that planning and visioning around school facilities just in this area, and take advantage of the relationships that we may be able to develop. I think it's a great opportunity. So any thoughts, reactions, or questions about this in terms of the school committee's role or suggestions? Sure, Rob, go ahead.
I mean, I'll echo Dr. Smith's excitement for this project, and I think Dr. Smith and Mr. Kent will both agree that a portion of why this might be such a nice idea is it certainly would not hurt to have that discount on ice time. So there's certainly a budgetary and a financial impact, and I would just say whatever role the school committee can play or the administration can play is something that we should absolutely jump on.
Great. Thank you, Rob. Other thoughts? All right, thanks. Okay, so now we'll move to the policy subcommittee.
Okay, so policy met last night. We have 3 policies that we're going to, per school committee practice, place on the table tonight. So I'll start with move that the school committee lay on the table for 2 weeks subcommittees of the school committee, policy 209E as presented.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Discussion.
Did you want me to give up?
Sure, go ahead. Yes, please, Rob.
This is as a result of the proposal, looking at it. Basically, what policy kind of came to is that we'd like to stick with the idea of having 3 subcommittees to both, budget our time and use it, efficiently. We went ahead with combining finance and facilities to deal with both the budgetary portions of things and also the facilities aspect. Obviously, labor and personnel and policy. The only other thing this really represents is a few kind of linguistic or syntax changes in the actual policy itself.
Okay, great. And one of the questions was around the future of the role of curriculum oversight and direction. Where does that rest? So we're going to talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. So Dr. Smith and the policy subcommittee had a conversation last night about the school committee's role historically in that.
Yeah.
Given that admittedly that subcommittee had not met recently,
Right.
and in that time period we had adopted new policies, I think we kind of came to the consensus that it's a decision that we have historically and probably is best left made with the administration. Obviously, it comes before the school committee because there is a budgetary impact to curriculum. But I think that certainly, obviously, we trust Dr. Smith and the administration in that role, and I think that that is where we kind of landed, that it would be best left.
Add just that we
Go
also
ahead,
felt that something as important as curriculum decisions was best left up to a full 7 members to have an open discussion about, and not have the conversation steered too much by a smaller group. We felt that it was really part of the full committee's responsibility.
Okay. Other thoughts? Ann, go ahead.
Then I just have a question. So if the facilities being connected to the budget subcommittee, does that mean that the facilities subcommittee is going to be focused on finances related to the facilities?
Go ahead.
Well, I think, our iteration of that was certainly, if things were to arise, like a fee schedule for facilities rentals or that sort of thing, I think being that many of those things would have normally gone through the budget subcommittee anyway, this kind of, the way I kind of envision it is it offers a role for Kim and Maria, to kind of communicate about any of those things that might be coming up. And I know, Kim, you had spoken to Maria about that facility subcommittee. I know her opinion was something that many members of the committee were looking forward to hearing, and from what I understand, she was very much in favor of this idea.
Yes, Maria really embraces the idea of having facilities be part of that subcommittee, just for advocacy, for support, for some insights and feedback, to kind of vet projects. And we thought it was a nice match, too, with she thought it worked well with finance in that a lot of times the capital planning kind of sneaks up on us. We talked about that a little bit last night, and that it's something that that committee could really attend to early in the fall as we're approaching budget season. So I think she's very much on board with the idea.
Thanks, Dr. Smith. So the way I saw it, Ann, is, I guess, sort of like a Venn diagram. There'd be some facilities planning, obviously the budget planning and oversight, and there's a lot of overlap in between them. And so, depending on the time of year, it would be a combination of both, and a lot of overlap.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
And maybe one
Additional
comment.
thoughts, yeah,
Just,
go ahead.
just also in our conversation, we talked a little bit about, when we were talking about curriculum and that piece, and when we talked about the community relations piece, so some of the communications, we didn't want to lose some of those opportunities too. And maybe we saw a little window in the policy and planning committee, that might be a place that when they're, because part of that, the language that you put under policy and planning talks about, strategic planning for the district. So
Right.
if there are times, or when there are times that, I might like to vet some of the, curriculum ideas or some community and business partnership ideas, that maybe that committee might be able to take part in that, because there aren't always policies to attend to throughout the entire year. So there'd be maybe room for that committee to look at those items.
All right, great. Additional thoughts? Questions? Okay. And remember, this is putting it on the table. We've got 2 weeks to chew on it, and we can always come back and on the 23rd with amendments or suggestions or objections. So the recommendation has been, the motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
So I'll then begin with, move that the school committee lay on the table for 2 weeks illegal substances and alcohol policy 1005 as presented.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Go ahead,
So this one is largely a byproduct of the new opioid law. All school committees are mandated per Mass General Law to institute a policy that speaks to both substance use prevention and also education of the dangers of substance abuse. in looking at our current policy on illegal substances and alcohol last night, we realized that we had a pretty good policy already existing on prevention. What we kind of just lacked was just one line in the actual policy about the education of it. And, you know, it was very clear from having spoken with Dr. Smith, it's not that we were lacking in the curriculum aspect of education. It just means that we need now to put a line in the policy. So we inserted just one line in there about providing developmentally appropriate, evidence-based alcohol, tobacco, and drug prevention curriculum.
To align with the new law, as you said.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Other questions, thoughts? Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. Okay, finally, field trips.
Yes, move that the school committee lay on the table for 2 weeks field trip policy 904-E as presented.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion.
Okay, so this one was something that had kind of come up amongst members for a little while, and we had a good discussion about whether or not the school committee has a role in approving each individual field trip that goes out of state or over water. The actual policy that we had only required overnight approval, and it had kind of snowballed into us approving field trips that maybe we wouldn't have actually had to necessarily approve. So the conversation that we had with Dr. Smith is, really that she certainly felt comfortable approving overnight field trips on her own, and that was obviously a responsibility that primarily lied with the superintendent, being that, it was through Dr. Smith that they would come to the school committee. So we thought that that was best left there. What we did include was that school committee approval would be needed for trips that would require international travel. So we inserted a line about that. And then we just, and this one also had just a few little linguistic changes, punctuation, things in there.
Okay, great. Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? All right, well, again, this one's being put on the table for vote in 2 weeks, so all those in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
And Chris? Now we go to superintendent's remarks.
Okay, so I'm just starting with some summer business, really just some updates. I gave you a copy of the enrollment projections, the current enrollment projections. We came with a hard copy tonight that was just passed out. The Doyle numbers didn't seem like they added up when I looked at them this morning, so I asked Karen Fitzpatrick if she'd reach out to Margot Perriello and clean that up, which she did. So those are now accurate. So I think we're in good shape across the district in terms of class size, in terms of enrollment, in terms of balance. So that is an update for everyone. I also included in your packet a list of the transfer requests which we provide annually. These transfer requests have not yet been approved. These are just, they're in the request stage. The elementary school principals will go through the application forms next week and make any final decisions. But typically, this is, in most instances, this might be a situation where a family moves at some point when their child is, enrolled at one of the elementary schools, and they're asking if they can have their child stay and finish out their last year or two at the elementary school, that type of thing. Sometimes you might run into a situation where an older sibling has been placed in a district school for a specific reason, and family might be requesting to have younger siblings attend the same school to keep their children together, that type of thing. So those are the requests. They'll be going, the principals will be reviewing those next week and making their recommendations to me.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
How does the quantity seem, is that consistent with
It's about
other
the
years?
same.
About
The presentation is a little different this year, which it makes it look like there might
Looks
be
like
more,
more, yeah.
but it's about the same, as
Okay.
always. Yeah.
Can I ask a question,
Sure.
Kim, about the enrollment to it? One thing I should know this, but I wasn't 100% sure, is participation and enrollment in the Doyle growing over time since we
So-
began it? Are there any long-term trends to Doyle that we should be aware of?
Mike might be able to help me with this. So this, right now, we're at 146.
146, yeah.
Maximum would be about 150. That's stable from last year, but how about the year before when the school first opened?
I believe we started that school with between 120 and 130, so our enrollment is up, but we're pretty much at capacity right now.
We're at capacity, yeah.
And I think that actually next year we might have to reduce the enrollment there slightly to accommodate some special education known things that are coming down the pipe.
Okay.
So We may need to add another special ed preschool class next year, which would take away from one of the possibly more of a peer, take some of our full-day non-peer classes and make them peer classes, so it means that we have to reduce some tuition and students. But that's just early on talk. Lynn's got her eyes on it, Margot's got their eyes, Margot and Lynn have their eyes on it, and it brought me into the loop, but I'm not super familiar with it. But I think right now, short of adding more space, which, it's not a priority for us, I
Right.
don't think right now. I
Right.
can't speak, but, I don't think it's a priority to add space at the Doyle. We're pretty much at capacity, so
Okay.
it's a good sign. We took a program that was at the Woodville and put it in its own building, and really, it's flourished under,
Yeah.
Dr. Smith's tutelage and
yeah, exactly.
Margot's oversight. It's been great, so.
Yeah, it is a good news story, but, that's a discussion for another time. Thank you.
Okay. And then finally, an update on our homeschool students as of August 4th. You can see the students by grade and district school, how many students are currently being homeschooled in district. So those are just 3 update reports at this time. We'll keep you posted. Any other questions before I move on? Okay, so moving on, I'd like to invite Brendan Kent to join us. He has 2 items on the agenda, and he'll be joined with some other colleagues for the second portion. But the first has to do with the installation of an outdoor adventure course at Wakefield Memorial High School, so.
Thank
Welcome,
you
Brendan.
for inviting me back. It's great to be back here.
Welcome
Hope
back,
Everybody's having a great summer. So I do have 2 presentations here, so I'll try to, for the sake of time, try to get through as quickly as possible. I am presenting first on the restoration of the Wakefield Memorial High School Outdoor Adventure Education course. And for any of the Wakefield High alum in the house, you may or may not remember this from your days as a student. So where this all came from, first slide, the need for the course. When I first started here last year, at the beginning of the school year, actually before the school year began, I designed an online survey for my physical education, health, and wellness teachers. And really the point was to get an idea of where we were at as a program and where I could best support our teachers in our program. So it asked, a variety of different questions, and a few of them asked about facilities. And our high school teachers identified really 2 very clear and distinct issues that they were having with 2 of their major courses. In regards to their personal fitness course, which is a requirement for all students to take at the high school, they were having issues with locking and securing the weight room. At night, they said they would leave equipment in there, they would leave it set up for the next day, they'd come back the next morning, equipment would be broken, stolen, out of place. That was a very easy fix. It took a 2-minute phone call to Bill's Lock and Key, and problem solved a few days later. The second issue was a much larger issue, and that was the issue of our outdoor adventure course. Every student also has to take Project Adventure, which, to be honest, I wasn't necessarily familiar with, because coming from the district I came from, we didn't do any adventure education. Adventure education is actually very popular in this area because Project Adventure is based out of Beverly. So a lot of the school districts in the area have that as part of their physical education and wellness curriculum, which Wakefield does. So Wakefield here has had a long history with Project Adventure and adventure education. We've had it as part of our curriculum here for decades. I know Dick Kelly was really at the forefront of that back when he taught here. The problem was that over time, the outdoor adventure course was slowly it fell apart and was destroyed. And so I did a little research. I had representatives from Project Adventure come in, do an inspection. Their estimate was that it would cost at least around $25,000 to restore. So I didn't know how I was going to address this, but fortunately, we worked on a grant over the school year, and we were very lucky. I got to thank Elizabeth Russell from the Wakefield Education Foundation. She was terrific, and Dr. Smith. We were able to get a $100,000 grant, and the first installment is going to go towards restoring our outdoor adventure course. So just like I said, history of the course, according to our veteran PE teachers, it originated sometime in the 1970s. The course was used by Wakefield High School students and teachers as part of the physical education curriculum. The course was originally built on trees and included a zip line, traverse, and many other elements. Throughout the years, there were some injuries to the trees. Some of the trees became unhealthy. And also, there was some overgrowth where parts of the trees are actually growing over some of the elements. And the issue with that is when they grow over it, it's not necessarily that it's not safe anymore, it's just you can't inspect it because the inspector can't actually see if it's safe. So if that happens, it automatically fails inspection. For any Wakefield residents that are watching on TV, wondering where this course is, the top left picture is if you were in the parking lot, the Beasley Field would be to the left, Walsh Field would be off to the right. And it's that little wooded area in between the tennis courts and Landrigan Field. So top right picture would be looking across the street. And as you get a little closer to the bottom left, you see a little path. And bottom right, you walk in, there's a little clearing. Like I said, there's a lot of overgrowth in there. When I first came in, my physical education teachers at the high school told me where it was. I went up there. I didn't see anything. I didn't know what they were talking about. So I came back. They said, look a little, closer, and you'll start to notice, some of the remnants of the old course. So as you can see, this picture is actually the same picture in all three frames. The top left is just kind of, if you're walking by, you don't notice. Then if you get a little closer, look a little closer, you'll actually see a posting for an old fitness trail. And the right side picture is zoomed up all the way. So as you look through there, if you walk up through there, you really won't see anything at first glance. But if you look closer, you'll start to notice what was once a great adventure course. Again, off to the left, it was really probably the only thing I did see at first was an old pull-up bar. Top right would be looking down at the tennis courts, and bottom right would be looking up towards Landrigan Field. Second time I walked through, I started to notice a lot more kind of leftover material from the old course. If you walk through, you'll actually notice a lot of old steel cables that have fallen off the trees. These are just some pictures walking around on the ground. And then as you walk around, you'll start to notice that there's some cables still hanging from the trees. So these are some cables that are, like I said, once held up a adventure course, and now they're just kind of dangling from the trees. This right here actually used to be the old zip line. So Wakefield High students would somehow climb up there. There's a little perch. I don't know if anybody in this room experienced that, but the cable goes all the way up, and they would, like I said, they would climb up to the perch. They would get hooked in, and they would zip line across to another tree. Again, talking about the overgrowth, this is another picture of some of the trees that are growing over some of the turnbuckles and cables. And again, if that happens, it can't be inspected. If it can't be inspected, it automatically fails inspection. This was once a traverse, and during the construction of the new football field, a tree fell down, destroyed it. I just thought this was interesting. I was walking by a downed tree, dead. It looked like it had been down for probably about a decade. After closer inspection, I started to notice some turnbuckles in there, and this at one time was a live tree that held up some sort of element. Next slide is just I looked up in the sky and all the way up towards the canopy. You saw a wire connected, a cable connecting two trees. Again, if you look on the tree on the right, it doesn't look like the healthiest tree. It's probably not something that you want your child, you don't want that supporting your child. I'll just say that. On the right, if you look closer into the picture, there's actually it's some type of swing that's being supported by a cable that Wakefield High students at some point would swing from one tree to another. How the course is going to be funded, as I mentioned, I can't thank Elizabeth Russell and the Wakefield Education Foundation enough. At the beginning of the school year, they came to Dr. Smith. They said we would like to work on a $100,000 Cummings grant. Dr. Smith reached out to a lot of the administrators within the district, asked us if we had any ideas about applying for this type of grant. I told her I had an idea. We ran with it. We started to get to work on it. We worked literally up to the last second, and we're just so fortunate to have received it, and it's going to fund the course this year. There is any additional equipment, materials, ropes, harnesses, helmets will be bought out of the phys ed budget. And safety training will be offered during job-alike professional development hours. Planning for the course, we had multiple vendors come in, give presentations to myself and some of the other wellness teachers. We went up, toured the area with them. They wrote up proposals for us. We researched different ideas. We looked at what other districts in the area were doing. We called around. I asked different health directors and wellness directors what worked for their school, what didn't work. And ultimately, we chose a vendor that we think is going to really do a great job. What the new course will look like. So really based on the research we found is current best practices. Most schools are building off of utility poles now. And the reason being is they're more durable and there's less maintenance. There's a lot less variables to worry about. It's not a living structure, a living tree. So you don't have to worry about necessarily the health of it like you would have to worry about the health of a tree. You don't have to worry about the overgrowth and failing inspection. And there's a more clear understanding of what the pole can actually support, what its limitations are, and it's much easier for customization and design. So we will be, if you look at this structure right here, the whole concept is it's going to be a very large square. It's obviously going to be more spread out than this structure, but it will be 4 utility poles. In the middle of that clearing, they'll be between 40 and 45 feet apart. We're going to try to spread them apart as much as possible because the further they are apart, the longer the elements are, the more the kids get to enjoy it. So very quickly, without explaining, we're going to have 3 levels. So we'll have a low level, which is where all of our kids will start. We'll have a mid-level, and then we'll have a high level for those kids that aren't afraid of heights. So these, in each level, will have 4 elements. So if you can imagine a large square, there'll be 4 different elements going across each section of the square. So the teeter-totter, top right, and inline logs, the bottom pictures. The next one, Burma Bridge, and these are all our high elements, and chips passing at night. These next elements are going to be the mid-level elements, multi-vine traverse and 2-line bridge, as well as islands in the sky, and I'm sure this will be a popular one, Indiana Jones Bridge. So if you can remember those Indiana Jones movies. And these are going to be our low levels close to the ground. Nitro crossing, low multi-vine traverse, universal mohawk, freestanding wall. And so that is hopefully ideally going to be our new adventure course. We've already done a lot of work. I met with our DPW supervisor for forestry, Dennis Fazio, who's really been excellent working with the school. I met with him and the president of the vendor company, Wingspeed Adventures, we're going to go with. We met in the clearing up there, the area last week. We went over what needs to be cleared. We went over safety inspection. We will obviously have to clear a pathway for emergency access, and we'll obviously have to clear a pathway to get the machinery up there to actually build the course. Once we clear that pathway, we can get an auger up there, start drilling to make sure it's safe to build. And then once we get the okay that it's safe to build, we're ready to go. And the check is we already have the check in the bank, so we have the money ready. As far as liability is concerned, I thought a terrific, really one of the huge reasons why we went with the vendor we did is they're actually a third-party inspector for the state of Massachusetts. So in addition to building their own courses. They're actually hired by the state of Massachusetts to go around and inspect courses. So they're very knowledgeable about the state laws and liability and safety. So really feel great about this and excited for our teachers and our students.
All right, thank you, Brendan. That was a great presentation. I think maybe we'll start by asking Rob to read the motion, and then we can open it up for questions and discussion.
Move that the school committee approve the installation of an outdoor adventure course at Wakefield Memorial High School as presented.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Questions? Chris?
I'm sure this has occurred to somebody, but I think there's just a little bit of ledge over there.
Yes,
So
that's
how are they going to compensate for that?
So that was a huge issue that both Dennis and the president of the vendor that we're working with, they were discussing as far as where is safe to build. So they were, obviously Dennis, they were using terminology. I don't, I'm not pretending to be an expert. That isn't my area, but they were discussing that as far as where the safest spots are to build and if it's going to actually support the structure.
And the other question I had, and you may or may not know the answer, it's okay, but prior to the tennis courts being rebuilt, one of the big problems they had with the old court was runoff from the hill and the icing causing frost heaves and splitting and there was some sort of a drainage system installed. Are we going to be able to avoid all that?
I would assume so. I know that Dennis is working with the town as far as what is actually underneath the ground there.
Mm-hmm.
So we are confident. Those are obviously steps that we're going to have to take.
Just be aware of that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Good, thanks. Ann, did you have questions?
I think it's fantastic. I'm so glad you got the grant.
Yeah.
I think it's very exciting. So
Yeah.
good job. That was a really significant grant
Yes.
that we were able to get,
Yeah.
or you were able to
Thank
get. So if it's been part of our curriculum, is this a project adventure? If we haven't had it, so it hasn't been being done?
Yes, so we do have indoor elements. So if you go in our gymnastics room, the upper gym, if you look up the ceiling, we do have a number of hanging elements in the ceiling up there. So our teachers were able to deliver that piece of the curriculum, and then there are Project Venture. There's a lot of pieces of the curriculum that don't actually require any equipment at all. Various trust and team building activities. So they have been able to deliver that, but they've expressed interest right from as soon as I began here that they would love to get outdoors again and be able to do something outdoors.
Fantastic.
So.
Great. RJ? go
Yeah,
ahead.
I actually remember this class, and I loved it.
Yeah,
I remember
that's great.
being up there, and
Yeah.
definitely could use an upgrade.
Yeah.
We all survived. We made it work, and especially thank you for getting this that grant. I know how hard that is to.
Yes.
It's a lot of hard work. So thank
Yes,
you.
Thank you. And again, I can't thank Elizabeth Russell. I hope she's watching. She was tremendous to work with, and Dr. Smith was tremendous as well. So.
Yeah, another great example of WEF's, the partnership with WEF.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, could you, Brendan, could you just talk, first of all, I meant to also commend your documentary photography skills.
Oh, yeah.
I think,
Thanks.
I don't want to let the police department steal you.
Yes.
But it was really helpful. So could you just talk in a little bit more detail about the curriculum? And if I remember correctly, I did it at Peabody High School too. We
Yes.
did it at Brooksby Farm. And there's a mentorship, right?
Yes.
Older students help the younger students. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes.
Because I think to me, it's in the age of emphasis on technology, sort of outdoor learning sometimes gets lost, and I think it's really important, and this is a chance to kind of emphasize that again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned, the district that I came from is one of the few districts around that actually doesn't have adventure education.
Yeah.
So I didn't necessarily have a background in adventure education coming in into Wakefield.
Yeah.
So when I learned that we had a course, it's actually called Project Venture, I was actually very interested to see what it included and what it incorporated. And I have to say, I was extremely impressed. I have to admit, I was actually a little skeptical at first because it's different from a lot of kind of traditional physical education curricula. But just the team building aspect of it, it was really amazing. And we do have some classes that there are kids at different grade levels, as you mentioned.
Right.
And just the opportunity to develop those leadership skills was really just amazing. I remember walking into Lisa Silva's class one day, and they were doing some type of activity where all the kids were blindfolded except for one student. The student had to direct them around the gymnasium picking up different objects, but that student could not speak any words. So they came up with some type of language on their own where they're stomping, twice meant, take 2 steps to the right or left, and if you clap, stop. So it was really just amazing, kind of the different dynamics of the class and the curriculum. So yeah, it's very impressive.
Yeah, these can be really memorable, meaningful educational experiences for kids. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great. Dr. Smith, did you want to say?
Great. No, just, I think the curriculum is very important. Collaborative problem-solving skills is one of the most important elements of that, of the course
Yes.
work. And I think in this day and age, part of fitness is getting students outdoors in the fresh air and sunshine and moving and engaging. And I know that I also observing this curriculum over the years, some of the things I like the best about it is this idea that students are going for their personal best and other students are cheering them on and supporting them. You might remember this, RJ, but there is no element that you can do without the support of other people, with the safety equipment or with the belays on. And so there's a lot of it's a really terrific curriculum.
It's all team building and trust building. Like you said, a lot of problem-solving skills actually developed in that class, so I loved it.
Maybe future school committee retreat at Project.
Could be, yes.
What a great idea. And then the other thing is that we will, next, speak with the Board of Selectmen, because I think anytime we install anything on town or school grounds, we also would need their endorsement as well. So we'll go to them next.
All right. Any other final thoughts, comments, questions? Brian?
Just figured I'd mention that this was a 4-year grant, so we will be receiving funds the following 3 years. And another piece of this grant is to upgrade our playground facilities at our elementary schools.
Right,
So-
right. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, so Brendan's not going away just yet. He's another, we're going to be seeing a lot of Brendan Kent, I have a feeling, in the coming weeks and months. But he's also here to talk about boys' swim team, and he is joined today by 2 outstanding Wakefield Public Schools employees. So I don't know if you'd mind coming up and just joining him for some support. Kathy Byrne and Jeff Boyd. And I'll let Brendan do the introductions and talk about the purpose.
So Kathy here is our swim coach in the fall. She's done an excellent job. Very proud to be joined by her today. And Jeff Boyd is our director of Wakefield Academy, Wakefield Academy director, excuse me. Also, I've worked very closely with Jeff, and I think everybody here knows the work Jeff has done. He's done a tremendous job. And part of the reason why Jeff is here is he's also a swim coach, which I'll get into a little bit further in my presentation.
Well, welcome.
Thank you, guys. So to start off, proposing that Wakefield High School starts a boys swim team. In our current situation, so Wakefield currently offers girls swimming, but we do not offer boys swimming. And just for everybody's knowledge here, the MIAA girls swim season is in the fall, the boys swim season is in the winter. Throughout the school year, this past school year, dating all the way back to September, I've had a number of boys and their parents come to me expressing interest in starting a boys swim team. We do have a number of boys at the high school that swim competitively outside of Wakefield High School that would love the opportunity to swim for Wakefield High School. And we did have, we did have 3 boys sign up for our girls swim team last year, which I'll get into in a little bit. So this is not just a Wakefield High School issue. This is also a Title IX issue. So I put in a little slide on Title IX, the Education Amendments of 1972. So Title IX is a comprehensive federal law that prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex in any federally funded education program or activity. Title IX regulations prohibit sex discrimination in interscholastic, intercollegiate, club, or intramural athletics offered by a recipient institution, including with respect to student interests and abilities, athletic benefits and opportunities, and athletic financial assistance. No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Schools are mandated to provide equal athletic opportunities for members of both sexes and effectively accommodate students' athletic interests. And if you look in the MIAA rulebook, word for word, it states that a girl may play on a boys' team if that sport is not offered in the school for the girl, and likewise, a boy may play on a girls' team if that sport is not offered in the school for the boy. When a sport is offered in 2 different seasons, each individual must participate on the team of his or her gender. And an issue that's really kind of on the forefront today is the issue of transgender students. And a transgender student will play or has the opportunity to play with the gender that that student identifies with. So in terms of the interest in swimming here at Wakefield High School, I mentioned a number of parents and students had reached out to me throughout the school year. So this past July 25th, I sent out an email to all parents with children entering the 9th through 12th grade. The email is very short and brief. It just asked if parents, if they had a son who would be interested in joining the swim team at Wakefield High School, if Wakefield High School was to offer boys swimming. In the results of the survey, 18 parents responded that they had a son that would be interested in joining the boys swim team at Wakefield High School if we were to offer boys swimming. And just a breakdown of those numbers, there were 6 seniors, 4 juniors, 6 sophomores, and 2 freshmen. In addition, there was also 6 other parents that indicated that they had a younger son that would be interested in swimming for Wakefield High School when they got to high school. So starting a new program is not as easy as a lot of people think. There are a lot of challenges, and some of the things to consider when starting a new program is sustainability. We might have enough to field the team this year, but are those numbers going to continue next year and the year after and the year after that? So that goes along with enrollment. Also, there's the funding. How are we going to pay for coaches? How are we going to pay for facilities, equipment? Coaches, who is going to coach our team? How are we going to find these coaches? How are we going to fund these coaches? And last but not least, which is a huge thing for swimming, huge issue, is facilities. Pool time is very difficult to come by around the winter time because there's so many club teams, and if you go down the local YMCA, yes, they have a pool, but they also do a ton of programming on their own. So pool time is difficult to come by, and it's expensive as well. And you guys can feel free to jump in at any time if you have anything.
You're doing great, Ben.
Thank you. We have 2 experienced swim coaches, so. Cooperative program, so my recommendation to start a boys team, and I reached out to a number of schools about how they started different programs, and I think back to my days in Melrose when they started up a girls ice hockey program. A lot of schools will take advantage of a co-op program, which the MIAA allows schools to do if they're just starting a new program or if they're struggling to field an existing program. Co-op gives 2 schools an opportunity to combine for a combined program, and this allows the schools to build out their programs, ensure that their programs will be sustainable before eventually breaking off on their own. This also allows students at both schools to compete on a team that otherwise might not exist without the benefit of a co-op. Benefits directly to Wakefield High School if we were to go down this pathway. Co-op would allow Wakefield to see if our program is actually sustainable without having to invest so many resources. In terms of enrollment, it would ensure that we would definitely have enough to field a team. In terms of numbers, and again, I can defer to our 2 swim coaches right here, but from what I've heard, generally around 12 to 15 at least is the number that you would need to field a team. And the kind of the rationale behind it is because there's so many different relays and events. So even though we had 18 respond that they would be interested, the fear is, okay, if we have 18, but what if on day one only 10 of them show up? Then we don't have enough to have a team. So co-oping with another school would ensure that we would definitely have enough to field a team until we're ready to go off on our own. In terms of funding, a co-op would save Wakefield High School a tremendous amount of money because we would not necessarily be the host school, and I can get into specifics in a minute, but we wouldn't have to put up that money up front for all the initial costs of starting up a program on our own. So it would save us a tremendous amount of money to start with. Coaches, we would not have to provide coaches at the time of a co-op until we broke off on our own. And part of the reason why Jeff is here is we'll get into that piece in a moment. Facilities, again, as I mentioned, pool time is difficult to come by. A co-op would allow us pool time at the host school's pool, so we wouldn't have to go out and search for a pool. If we were to co-op with another program, we could use their pool time. Steps that I've personally taken so far as the athletic director, once this was brought to my attention, at every one of our Middlesex League meetings, which we have monthly meetings, I've thrown out the idea of Wakefield High School starting up a boys swim team. I've asked some of the different schools, actually I've asked all the schools within the league if they would be willing to co-op with Wakefield as a host school. Unfortunately, none of the schools within the Middlesex League were in a position where they really needed a co-op or wanted to go down that pathway. And some of the dynamics of that is some schools aren't always willing to be a host school. If you already have a full team, there can be some kind of dynamics that they don't want to get into. For example, if you have 30 kids on your team and now all of a sudden 5 Wakefield High kids join your team, but those 5 Wakefield High School students, steal 5 varsity roster spots from hometown school kids. Usually that doesn't sit well with that host school or their parents. So we just weren't unfortunately there was no opportunity for us to co-op with a school in our league. After the final Middlesex League meeting for the school year in June, I expressed interest one more time to the league about co-oping with somebody within the league. Got turned down one more time. At that point, I informed the league that we would be searching outside the league to co-op with a school. After investigating what schools could be a good fit for Wakefield High School, it was discovered that our very own Wakefield Academy director, Jeff Boyd, is actually the head swim coach for Linfield High School. So that was tremendous relief for myself. I went and spoke with Mr. Boyd. Mr. Boyd, and again, I'll give him an opportunity to speak in a minute, but he expressed great interest in teaming up with us. He mentioned that he's actually had low numbers in recent years. So he believes that this would be an opportunity, really great opportunity for both schools that could benefit both schools, Wakefield and Linfield. Having worked with so many of our kids, Mr. Boyd is very excited about the potential possibility of coaching some of them on his swim team. And obviously, from an administrative point of view, it's great to know that our kids would be in the hands of somebody that we know and trust, somebody that's well respected within our school district. So really, it's a great opportunity for Wakefield High School. I spoke to Dr. Smith and Principal Metropolis about this. They were both very excited when they heard that Mr. Boyd was the coach at Linfield, and this is a possibility for us. Mr. Boyd was very helpful with connecting Wakefield with the Linfield principal and Linfield athletic director. It has been approved by both of them, so both the Linfield principal and athletic director are in support of this and are looking to move forward with a co-op. Since Linfield would be the host school, they would be the school that would have to apply for this co-op. So they would have to fill out the paperwork, which their athletic director is in the process of pending school committee approval. At that point, it would go to the Cape Ann League for approval. If the Cape Ann League approves the co-op, it would go to District A, and if they approve it, it would be sanctioned by the MIAA, and we'd be able to have a co-op program. At this point, I'll open up to Mr. Boyd or
First of all, thank
Yeah.
you, Brendan.
Yeah.
He's not being completely accurate when he came to me with the idea. I did everything I could in my power not to give him a big old hug, because you and I are on the same page here. This it was absolutely like a perfect idea, and something that I have always kind of wanted, or always over the last few years, kind of wanted for my program and for my interest as a Wakefield Public School employee. Just to give you a little background on what it would look like with Linfield. Wakefield currently is in the Middlesex League. It is a gender-specific league where the girls swim in the fall and the boys swim in the winter. And it's my understanding that whatever boys from Wakefield that have wanted to participate in swimming have been swimming in a girls' league on the girls' team in the fall, when the majority, if not all the other leagues in the state, the boys compete in the winter. So the Cape Ann League, which Linfield is a part of, is a co-ed league. So we have both boys and girls, so any boys from Wakefield that would join Linfield would certainly not be the only boys on a team, and they would be entering into a program where there's a dynamic where that's the expectation, and that's how the team is kind of structured and built. And that's what I honestly, after having coached all boys and having coached co-ed, I really enjoy having both involved. I think it really is just an awesome team chemistry that it builds. So they would be entering into something where they wouldn't feel like they're just kind of being dragged along, or they have to be there and they feel out of place. They would feel very much a part of the team, because they would be among both boys and girls in a league that's already established to compete in a co-ed structure. Just to give a little bit of background, speaking to the effectiveness of a co-op, I can speak firsthand as to the great things that can come out of it. I'm a graduate of Reading High School. I was captain for 2 years, my junior and senior year, of the Reading High School swim team, which consisted of me and 8 other boys. We had a tough time, an impossible time really, as you probably know, filling a lineup. Didn't win a single meet, I don't think, our final year. Had a great time. And every one of us was all right, but mathematically it just wasn't feasible to be very competitive. And 2 years after I graduated from Reading High School entered into the same kind of conversation and ended up in a co-op with Linfield. And over the course of the next, I believe, 4 or 5 years, numbers grew from both towns, and I actually returned to the team as a volunteer assistant coach upon graduating from college. And the numbers had turned around so well, and they actually transferred the host school from Reading over to Linfield. So rather than competing in the Middlesex League, Reading High School is now competing in the Cape Ann League, which meant it was now a co-op team. So Linfield girls were also competing. Reading girls were not competing because they had a fall season. And the numbers were large enough and indicated that exactly what Brendan's talking about, where Reading could sustain its own boys team and Linfield could go on to sustain their own co-ed team in the Cape Ann League. And the split couldn't have worked out better for me, because it meant that there was going to be a job opening in one of the 2 high schools, either, depending on which way the Reading coach decided to go, if he wanted to stay with Reading, which he'd been with for his entire career, or if whether he wanted to go with Linfield. He opted to stay with Reading. I was fortunate enough to end up with the job in Linfield, and I've been there ever since, so I'm actually the only head coach in this program's history, and it's been an awesome 10 years. I absolutely love it. We've practiced at 5 a.m. and we've practiced at 8 at night, and the type of kids that come out for our team, it's just they have the highest level of character. And I know a few of the boys that Brendan's speaking about coming out from Wakefield, and just giving those kids the opportunity to do what they really want to do and compete in a setting where they feel comfortable and where they'll be accepted, and where there's potential for the program to grow, so that hopefully one day Wakefield can sustain their own boys team in the winter. And for myself and my program, the Cape Ann League it's a very interesting league as far as enrollments go. Linfield High School is in the low to mid 600s for overall enrollment, and we're competing against schools like Masconomet, which are 1,400 plus. And it's not just a varsity league like the Middlesex League is, we also have a JV component. So they occur on the same meet, but we have a varsity lineup and a junior varsity lineup. And over the last 2 years, where our numbers have kind of dwindled, we can't even fill a varsity lineup, let alone a junior varsity lineup. So it really does seem at this point for Linfield and for Wakefield a perfect match. We share a town border. I mean, I am totally invested in both communities, and have enjoyed my experiences in both communities at both levels that I've been involved, and I think it's a really, really exciting opportunity, and I'm really, really hopeful that, you know, everything goes through and these guys have a chance to do what they really want to do and feel like a part of the team that they should, so. So I thank Brendan, I can't thank Brendan enough for like going through this whole thing. He says that I put him in touch with I'm like, no, I basically like, you know, bombarded him with phone numbers and email addresses. I'm like, let's do this, man, let's do this. And he's been great, and it's actually, you know, I've been very fortunate to have him and to have gotten the support of everybody else along the way so far, so.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for a great presentation. So similarly, why don't we start with the motion, and then we can open up the question.
Move that the school committee approve the boys swim team in accordance with U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, Title IX guidance as presented.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Questions? Chris?
I got a couple. I think this is great. I can talk to you about maybe even being a sponsor.
Excellent.
You know, I'm in the swimming pool business. But the questions I had, like, if Wakefield added 18 members to the Linfield team, wouldn't that inherently create the need for more coaching and more pool time because if you have more participants?
So I can feel that just kind of, we haven't touched on every specific yet, but I did mention the fact that our students do pay a user fee to Linfield. I expressed interest in offering that up in assistance to any type of funding, and part of that money could potentially go towards hiring an additional coach, or at least paying a stipend for a coach.
And do the Linfield kids pay a user fee?
They do. They told me it's $400.
Okay.
Yes, $400.
And technically, who are they swimming for Linfield?
So it would be Linfield Wakefield or Wakefield Linfield, however you want to
My
say
wife
it.
suggested Lakefield.
There we go. Yeah.
And then just out of curiosity, I know years ago, we used to use the vocational school
Yes.
pool, which they don't have anymore. And like, I'm hearing that when they rebuild, they don't intend to build a new pool. So where do we go now? I don't even
Well,
know.
we swim
Yeah.
at, right now, at Malden High School.
Oh, nice.
Malden, oh, yes.
And where does Linfield go?
So we practice out of the Peabody Linfield YMCA, which is on Linfield Street in Peabody, which is exit 40 feet 4B right over the border in Linfield. So it's really not any longer of a drive for the Wakefield kids than it is the Linfield kids. Like I said, we've practiced in the mornings, we practiced in the evenings. Currently, it looks like we'll be sticking with the evening practice times. It's one of the better aquatic facilities for high school programs in the area. The facility is about as old as our program, which is 10 years. It's an 8-lane pool. And I have 2 assistants on my coaching staff as well. So as far as being able to accommodate, if they were to bring 18 boys, I've had a team of 50 in the middle.
With
in
that
the
many coaches.
K-band league before, and it's worked out just fine, so.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks. Other questions? Nope. All right, well, thank you again for a terrific and thoughtful approach to this issue. So motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you again. All right.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Is that, by the way, is this feasible for this coming season, or?
That's the idea, yes.
Okay.
That's what we're working towards.
Fingers
Coming
crossed.
season. Okay, yeah, good question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Like I said, it's not the last you'll be hearing from Brendan and Ken. We already have plans for upcoming meetings, so, but thank you all very much. And then finally, just on my other comments, I just put 2 things in the packet that I received over the summer that I just thought the committee might be interested in. One is just an early look at some of our AP scores, our advanced placement scores. Principal Metropolis had emailed me to just to give me just some great news about 2 of the new courses that we've been we've added at Wakefield High School. One is Calculus BC, and that's a really advanced calculus course. It's more material, more content, faster, and we had 14 students take the AP exam this year. And the average score, and you know the AP scores are 1 to 5. 5 is the highest. It was 4.86. That's incredibly strong. So just, knowing that our students are doing so well in math is exciting. And then our AP Art course, this was the first year we've had AP Art. You might have remembered you endorsed the addition of that new course last year. And just in the very first year, you can see the average scores. 3 students took the drawing portfolio exam and had an average score of 4.33. How many kids did 3D design? 1 student did 3D design and got a score of a 4.0. For 6 students did 2D design and had an average score of 4.33. Those are excellent AP scores. And the other thing that Mr. Metropolis mentioned to me was that in English language and composition in grade 11, we had 55 students take the AP, which is that's a lot of students with an average score of 3.35. So that is that passing score for college credits. That's a really good average score for that amount of students taking it. So I just thought that was interesting information I wanted to share with you today. And I know that AJ Beebe and Rich Metropolis will come in the fall and give the full AP data when they do that presentation. But I just thought people might like to see that. And then the other thing I included in your packet was our virtual high school enrollment. Sometimes it's easy to forget that we, for a long time now, have been, we purchase virtual high school seats, and we purchase 15 seats a year it's a small school a number. And I just thought the courses that our students are taking are so interesting. You may notice that we have everything from film and literature to a number of different science courses like Earth and Space Systems Science, astronomy principles, meteorology, a couple of interesting other courses like forensic science and psychology of crime, pre-veterinary medicine, mythology. One student is taking Portuguese, and a number of students are taking AP psychology, which is something that we don't offer at our high school. So I just thought that might be interesting, and just as a reminder that we do expand our curriculum annually by purchasing those seats, and I think it really pays dividends for these students to be able to take some of these courses. So I just saw that list and wanted to share it with you this summer.
It's really nice to see that, because at one point in time, a year or so after we first began doing that, we were actually having a hard time filling the seats.
We were. I think in the early growing pains time, you realize that you really have to be a self-starter. Students have to be quite motivated and self-motivated to participate in an online course, but it gives them an opportunity that they may very well see in a college setting. So then it really just started to take off. So
Well, I think our technology advances helped as well.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that's true.
No question.
No doubt.
Do we still have to, for participation, do we have to provide teachers into that
We
program
do.
as well?
So we are obligated to provide a .2 teacher. So Beth Hughes continues to teach a course for virtual high school, and students all around the country and sometimes the world are in her class. It's neat. So that's one part of the agreement is we provide .2 FTE teaching and the cost of the course, and then our students can access a curriculum book of over 200 courses. So
Great.
just thought it was really interesting.
Great.
I wanted to share that with you tonight. And that's all for me.
All right, thank you, Kim. Okay, next, under budget items, we have a motion for payroll warrants.
Move that the school committee approve payroll warrants number 48, 50, 52, 52A, B, C, and 52D as presented.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Any questions?
Can I amend that motion
You may.
to include warrant number 2 and 4 in fiscal year 17, which is on page 2?
Okay, you just need a school committee member to amend it, right?
So moved.
So moved, as amended. Any other questions? All those in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous, thank you. And we have a personnel report. Dr. Smith?
Mike.
Or Mike, I'm sorry.
Yes, so what we've provided to you is an early look at our personnel report.
Yeah.
What you can take from this is these are the retirements, the resignations, people who aren't returning to Wakefield in the fall. What you'll see at hopefully our next meeting is a list of all the replacements, which is kind
Right,
of
the new
the happy
hires.
side of the
Yeah.
happy side of the story. So
Right.
we did have a few retirements this year. We had some people move on, so this is kind of some shifting. but I think you'll be pleased with the report that we give, either at our second meeting in August or at our September meeting regarding all the newly filled positions, some shifts within, some shifts from without, so, but this is just a, kind of an update on the retirements and resignations.
Okay, all right. And some of those we honored earlier this summer. right?
Quite a few
Yeah,
we did,
yeah,
correct, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
All right, thank you, Mike. Okay, subcommittee reports. Budget, Chris, we've got one
It hasn't
scheduled
met, but we are trying to set a meeting for the end of the month.
for later this month, right, okay. And Labor Relations, Tom Markham is not here tonight. Ann, did you want to give us a quick update on Labor Relations, or?
Well, we're continuing to meet. We have some meetings scheduled for the end of August and beginning of September,
Right.
so, early September, so we're getting close,
Right,
so,
all right, good.
to settling everything up.
Okay, and we'll continue to keep the possibility of an executive session on
Yes.
our agenda
Yes.
in case we need it. All right, thank you. Anything else from policy, Rob? No, I think your work is done tonight. Okay. All right, future dates and agenda items. Our next meeting is August 23rd, and then we've got meetings on September 13th and 27th, in addition to the school committee retreat on the 17th. Dr. Smith and I, we hope we'll be meeting with Dorothy Presser from MASC over the next week or so to start to plan out a draft agenda for the retreat that we'll take to all of you for your feedback.
Linfield, right?
She's from Linfield, right.
What, the dates, what again? September?
Okay, so the school committee dates are the September 13, and I don't have the calendar in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it's
27th.
in the 27th, and the Saturday, and I believe is the 17th for the retreat. Is that right? Okay. Okay, school committee comments. Start over left with RJ.
Good for now.
Okay.
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 Nothing.
No? Ann?
Good.
No?
Just looking forward to the Italian Festival in a couple of weeks. Is the school?
We are,
You have a
we'll have
booth?
the Wakefield Public Schools booth at the Italian Festival again for our third straight year. Really looking forward to it.
Great.
Good, all right, thanks, Chris. Okay, none from me, so motion to adjourn?
Move that the school committee adjourn its meeting of August 9th, 2016.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, all those in favor? Any opposed, it's unanimous, thanks, everyone. Good night.